This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Catherine Shen. Since the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan 2 years ago, about 80,000 refugees have found new homes across the country. According to the Connecticut Department of Social Services, over 1,300 parolees, refugees, and Special Immigrant Visa Holders from Afghanistan have resettled in Connecticut since 2021. The New Haven-based nonprofit Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services, or IRIS, recently opened a satellite office in Hartford to help meet the needs of the roughly 250 clients they serve in the area. Coming up, IRIS's soon-to-depart executive director, Chris George, will join us. Plus, for many refugees and immigrants, food is a love language that carries memory and tradition while connecting people and building community. Chefs with Afghan roots at Sanctuary Kitchen, a New Haven-based nonprofit, will join the conversation later in the hour. But here, first with me now in studio is Asadullah Jalal, who is a resident of West Hartford and fled Afghanistan in 2021. Thank you so much, Asadullah, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And for our listeners, you can also join the conversation 888-720-9677 or find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. So Asadullah, you recently spoke with the Hartford Current describing your very sudden and very difficult decision that you had to make for your family of 9 to leave Afghanistan. Can you tell us about that experience, to your comfort level?
Yeah, the day which Taliban entered to Kabul, it is so dangerous situation. When the people saw the Taliban enter to Kabul, fear created among people. Every people left the job and work and went toward their houses and had a contact with their family to stay at home. This is so difficult days for me, especially because I support the U.S. Army project, International Security Force project I work, and recently I had a job as a prosecutor for Afghanistan government. I received word from my relative that Taliban looking for you. I decided there is nothing for me. If I stay here, I will be killing by that people. I contact with my wife to prepare yourself. We should leave Afghanistan. Yeah, I just told her to take a small box of like a school box and put some biscuit and water for the children. And we went toward the Kabul International Airport and stayed 3 days there. There is a canal in front of the Kabul International Airport which have water of need. We enter in the 3rd day to cross the canal, and recently we entered to the Kabul Airport and stay 1 night here in the Kabul Airport. And 16 of August, we had a journey from the Kabul Airport to Kuwait. We stay at Kuwait 1 night. After that, we have a trip to Spain, and we stay in the Spain for 4 days. And recently, when we reached to the New Mexico military base and stayed there for 45 days. And recently we reached or had a trip to the Connecticut in my new house, which is located in the West Hartford, with my several children and wife. We stay here.
Well, we're really glad to have you here and that your family have arrived safely. And of course, it was a difficult decision to make that choice of putting everything you own in a box and traveling so far. Can you take us through the evacuation process? What were your thoughts when you were sitting on the floor of that enormous aircraft carrier?
Yeah, this is very difficult for us. But that time we just thought about to save my life. We didn't know about future. We just thought about to save my life. When we enter there is a army. Airplane, which is I think approximately 600 or 700 people and sitting in the floor.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, this is so excited for us. But when we saw the situation is so difficult, and just we thought about to save our life, our family life. Yeah, this is so important for us.
Well, I see your eyes kind of light up describing that experience, even though I cannot possibly imagine what that was like being there with your family. But you said, 600, 700 people in an aircraft carrier. But you said it was exciting. Were you excited that there's hope, where you're flying towards? Or what were you feeling then?
Yeah, just like I mentioned, important thing is for me is to save my life and my family life, because I left everything that I had. Just we had a cloth which we are in, that nothing there, because I think there is nothing, no future or nothing there. Yeah. For that reason, right now we have everything. I happy, my family happy, my children enrolled at school. I am working. We have a good life here. And I think my children will have a good future here. That will be a doctor, engineer, or what they want. Yeah.
And it's been nearly 2 years since you've made that decision to save yourself and your family. And the experience of being here in the United States is very different for everyone. How would you describe your own adjustment process here? And also, how are your children doing? Are they enjoying their lives right now?
Yeah, when we reach it to the Broadway airport, that I think that will be 12 a.m., midnight. My case manager, which worked for IRIS with other case manager, she came and dropped us to my new house, which is prepared by IRIS with every necessary thing, like food. And first time when I reached my new house, my case manager gave me a cell phone, an amount of cash. After that, the process is continue. We receive it like benefit from DSS. We have ABT card we use for food. We receive it in that time. Cash also from the DSS. And for approximately for 1 year, I just pay for my house rent also. And they enroll my children at school by IRIS. And also a person from IRIS, which is responsible for health care, she provided appointment. We visit several appointments in the hospital. And she showed me how to make appointment like that. Now we are able to take appointment, to go to hospital. They show me everything urgent about the health care. But that time when I reached, I had a open heart surgery. That is so difficult. For that reason, I stayed for around 6 months at home. But still, I support us during that situation.
So you're able to, that sounds like a very drastic change to your, traveling over from Afghanistan to the States. Is there anything else about that particular experience that you would like to share?
Yeah, this is something new for us. We never saw before. Once a day, our government will be clapped down. Everything will be damaged. We will leave Afghanistan. We will came to United States. This is something exciting. We never thought about that. This is for me exciting. This new experience.
And with that exciting new experience, what challenges would you say you've had either yourself or as a family or your children? Because we know, moving, especially in such a drastic way, while exciting, can be a bit of a culture shock. So is that something that you've experienced, the culture shock, and what was shocking to you?
Yeah, when we reach first time in the United States, that will be difficult to join new culture, new country. But a few days we are so excited how to join that new culture, new society. But that I am an educated person. I rejoined soon that, I adjust myself and my family in the new society. Now we are happy. My children are so happy. They made new friend in school. We have a relation with the American people there. We visit each other. We have a good relationship with each other.
And with so many newness, you're describing new home, new culture, literally a new country, especially depending on one's faith, there's difficulties. Have you experienced any difficulties in observing Muslim traditions throughout the day, for your children in school or for you at work? Is that something that you've run into?
Yeah, as you know, Muslim people have different culture. The school-age children, when they go to school, they have using hijab. Yeah, but there is no hijab. Because every culture, every religion have their own culture for that reason. That is the first time that will be so difficult for every people that to join the new system. When the children go to school, they see different culture, different clothes. That will be something. But right now, my children are just themselves. Yeah, they are relaxed. They are happy.
Relaxed and happy. That's a good state to be. Are they excited about anything in particular? Or are they just excited to learn all of the new things because everything is so new?
Everything for my children is new. Yeah, right now they speaking English so beautiful, so good. Yeah.
Yeah. And coming up, we'll hear from Chris George, who is the longtime, soon-to-depart executive director of IRIS. Can you talk about what sorts of resources they were able to help with early on? I know you mentioned healthcare benefits. What else were they able to give to you and your family?
The last year, no. When? Yeah. Every time which we had a difficulty, we contact IRIS office. IRIS office help us. Right now, when I have any difficulty, they find help in how to find a job. They guide me to get a job, and also they show me how to use the public buses. Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier too that you're connecting with the local community. You're creating friendships with American people. How important is it for you and your family to build a local community now that you're in a new space?
Yeah, some volunteer people came to our house. We have a discussion. They describe the culture of the U.S. This is the reason they encourage my children, my family. This is the way to join the new society.
And we'll also be discussing what other resources might still be needed 2 years in particular around parole or asylum status. What would you say is needed for new Connecticut or American residents?
Yeah, I am an educated person, but my education is not similar like US. This is my dream, this is my wish. I want to go to back school. I want to start my college. I need financial aid from community or maybe from state to assist me to start my ungraduated education.
What would you like to study?
I have two passions because I have a lawyer degree from Afghanistan. The first, I want to start a lawyer or maybe construction engineer. Yeah, I have more experience in construction engineer.
Well, I hope you're able to construct and engineer a way. Thank you so much, Asadullah Jalal, for spending time with us and sharing your incredible story.
You're welcome. Thank you so much to have me here.
Of course. And coming up, we'll hear about how local refugee resettlement organizations are growing to meet the needs of new Connecticut residents. And we'll get the latest from two of them after a quick break. You can also join the conversation, 888-720-9677. That's 888-720-WNPR, or leave us a comment on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Catherine Shen. This hour, we're discussing the growing refugee resettlement efforts around where we live, particularly those focused on the 1,300 plus people who have resettled in Connecticut since the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021. Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services, a New Haven-based organization, recently opened up a satellite office in Hartford where they work with around 250 clients. And joining me now is Chris George, who is the longtime executive director of New Haven's Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services. Thanks so much, Chris, for joining me in studio today.
Morning, Catherine. Thanks for having me.
And you can also join the conversation, 888-720-9677, or find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. So, Chris, you've been listening to Asadullah's story earlier, which I know is familiar to you. Anything jump out to you?
It is in so many ways typical of not just refugees who come to Connecticut, but immigrants who've been coming to this country for hundreds of years. I mean, his focus on his children, his mentioning his dreams, the fact that he has a law degree and studied engineering, but is working in a factory, doing things much, much lower on that scale of sophistication than he did in his home country. I mean, that is the story of so many immigrants, refugees who have come to this country. The story of my grandfather who came, years ago. So that's what struck me, is just how typical it is of the immigrant experience, the immigrant narrative in this country. And it's why so many people in Connecticut have stepped forward to help refugees and to help Afghans and Syrians and Congolese who continue to come.
And, you've been working in this position for a while, and now that's also coming to an end. So I want to talk about your position at IRIS, Chris. There's a search for your replacement underway, and there are certainly big shoes to fill. The Hartford Courant also reported that during your tenure, the organization expanded from helping 200 new arrivals annually to about 1,000. And is this changeover still expected to take place this fall?
Yes, the board is looking now. We've hired a consultant, so the search process is underway. IRIS is a strong organization, and we're engaged in a mission that is really the best thing this country does, welcoming persecuted people from all over the world and helping them start new lives. So that's going to be attractive. Connecticut's a great place to live. New Haven is a vibrant city. And I think we'll attract a really strong pool of candidates. I don't have a hard stop. I've told IRIS I'm here as long as it takes to find a good replacement and to have an adequate period of overlap.
And of course, this is a conversation that's ongoing, and we've mentioned this a little bit earlier. Can you briefly walk us through the difference between parolee, asylum, and special immigrant visa holder statuses? Right.
Well, refugee has a very specific definition in international law, and it's also the definition that the U.S. government has. It is a person who was forced to flee their home country because of persecution. And The U.S. government traditionally has invited more refugees to come to the United States than all of the other countries that have refugee resettlement programs. And that's usually around 80,000. That dipped very low over the past few years. But we want to get it back now to over 100,000. And the Biden administration is going to fulfill its promise to do that. So we're entering a pretty busy time. Maybe talk more about that later. So that's a refugee. An asylee is really almost identical. The only difference is where they were granted the status. So someone who comes to the United States applies for refugee status. We call it applying for asylum. And if it's granted, they're an asylee. So it's essentially the same as refugee. A humanitarian parolee is someone who has been quickly brought out of danger to the United States and given a period of time, a parole period, to change their status. And that's what we did for about 80,000 Afghans. We had to get them out of Afghanistan quickly. You all know the fall of Kabul happened much faster than expected. They were brought to military bases in the United States, and they're basically told, look, you've got a couple of years to change your status. Most of them have applied for asylum. Fortunately, a lot of attorneys have stepped forward to help us with their pro bono assistance to assist humanitarian parolees with their asylum application. But it's going slowly. Immigration courts are backlogged, and it's not going to happen anytime soon.
And especially with like you mentioned, the fall of Kabul happened a lot faster than we expected. So you have this sudden influx, even though you're prepared for it, but at the same time, you're not prepared for the numbers coming in. Where does that long-promised federal Afghan Adjustment Act come in, which is what you were referencing to earlier?
Right. The Afghan Adjustment Act should have happened a while ago. The humanitarian parolees are really refugees. They should have been granted refugee status. They're getting all the benefits that refugees get, and we're waiting for that to pass Congress. But there are, in some ways, even more urgent issues, Catherine. Many of the people who were airlifted out, many of the 80,000, left family members behind. I mean, if I was a father or husband in Kabul, an Afghan, working with the U.S. military, I'm not sure I would have taken my wife and 3 small children to the airport and fight through that crowd and risk my life and their lives. Maybe I would have been evacuated and then listened to the U.S. government when it said, don't worry, we'll bring your family later. Come to the United States and wait and wait and wait. And that's what's going on now. We have so many clients who are here waiting for their wives and children to be evacuated from Afghanistan to join them. They're losing sleep. They are hearing horrible stories about how the Taliban has gone after their wives or their children to punish them for the work that their husband or father did with the U.S. government. That is, in some ways, a more urgent, critical problem, is the family reunification for the Afghans who are here.
And I think we're going to hear an echo of sentiments in terms of how difficult the process has been. The Connecticut Institute for Refugees and Immigrants, or CIRI, that's based in Bridgeport, hired additional legal staff to help with these parole and asylum processes. We also spoke with the director of Immigration Legal Services Program, Caroline Sennett, who said they just got their first asylum approval this week. And so that wasn't exactly encouraging. So take a listen.
The asylum office was not made or was not designed to process cases of this volume. And even before Afghans arrived here in the United States, there were severe backlogs. So the implications for our clients are, they know that they're supposed to receive an interview at 45 days. They know they're supposed to receive a decision at 150 days. They've been told, and they've heard in the news repeatedly, that there's going to be this Afghan Adjustment Act, so they don't have to go through this interview or a second interview. But it's really difficult for them to focus on their lives and moving forward and making a home here when they don't know what's going to happen. For some of them, they don't know if their parole is going to be renewed, even though we're really hopeful. And for others, they don't know what's going to happen even if their parole is renewed. Are they going to get a decision in the next 2 years?
So, Chris, with what Caroline just said, it very much mirrors what you were saying a little bit earlier. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, there are so many problems with our immigration system that need to be fixed, and we are running into them at every turn. When 80,000 humanitarian parolees are brought to the United States, sure, we are happy about that, and you hear Assad's story. He's one of the relatively lucky ones, but there are still a lot of things that need to be done. Their status needs to be changed to asylee or refugee, and family reunification is really a top priority. There are some Afghans who were not evacuated, whose lives were in danger, and their families. And they've had to take matters into their own hands, Catherine. They have flown from Pakistan to Brazil and then have traveled overland through South America, through Central America, into Mexico, crossed the border into the United States, surrendered to border guards and say, hey, we're from Afghanistan. We worked with the U.S. military. We're now, we were in danger. We had to flee. They're allowed to enter the United States, but they could be deported at any moment, according to the papers they have, and they're not eligible for any benefits, and they're not allowed to work legally. Why are we treating people this way?
And clearly with what Assad had shared and what you shared just now, it's a complicated process, right? I think we can talk for days of how intensely complicated this is. Big picture, you've been in this resettlement and advocacy space for nearly 2 decades. As you're preparing to step back, what are your feelings about the importance of public engagement, especially, you're hearing these stories, you're giving us definitions of what everything means. And as a team here, we talk often about the short attention cycle around all of the refugee crisis that we're hearing. So, how important is it that we keep this conversation going?
Keeping the conversation going, educating Americans, engaging Americans is everything. We need more public understanding and public support for refugee resettlement. The best way to do that, Catherine, is to swing open our doors. All the refugee resettlement agencies in the country, there are about 300 of them, open our doors and allow volunteers to participate. We've done that well in Connecticut. It needs to be happening all over the country. And after I step down or away from IRIS, I'll be continuing to work with a national program called Welcome Corps, which in many ways kind of democratizes refugee resettlement. It makes it much more accessible. It invites everyday people to join the movement and to get a little bit of training and to welcome a refugee family in their community. We need to do more of that because in many ways, public support is more important than funding. Now, of course, we need funding. And if you've got listeners out there who would like to donate, we can, of course, always use their support. But getting public support and having elected officials who support and understand the refugee resettlement program, that is essential.
And we also had Susan Schnitzer, who's the president and CEO of CIRI in Bridgeport, respond to the same question, as well as Caroline Sennett. So let's take a listen to both of them.
We see it happen because once a crisis happens, that's the beginning for us. That's not the end. It's not a snippet. That's the very beginning. Public knowledge is important. Keeping the facts out there straight and sticking to the facts, and realizing that every person that comes into this country that is forced to leave their homeland and to migrate here deserves to have the same services and opportunity available to them.
I think it's important to realize that people get tired of hearing about this, but the reason that we have to keep hearing about it is because there's been no solution. And there was an easy solution 2 years ago that has not been implemented. And if you look at this more broadly, it's not just about our clients, it's about our country's obligation. We airlifted 70,000 people out. And then we have been unable for 2 years to come up with a permanent solution that will address what we did by removing them from their country and give them a way to stay here, to stay safe, to stay employed, to be contributing members of society. I do think that a lot of the concerns that we're seeing today intersect with one another when we're talking about migration, when we're talking about the various different things that pop up in the news as being a crisis in the moment. People end up feeling hopeless about it because we don't address them. This is one of those issues that we do have the power to address.
And again, that was Susan Snitzer, who's the president and CEO of CIRI in Bridgeport, followed by the head of their legal services, Caroline Sennett. Chris, some strong sentiments that we've also been talking about here that reflects with both Susan and Caroline. What are your thoughts with what they have to say?
Yeah, well, and I also think a lot about this as I complete my, more than 18 years of service in this line of work. This is really the best thing this country does. It is our oldest and most noble tradition. You heard Assad talk about his arrival at the airport. We invite people to volunteer at IRIS and to be part of that welcoming committee at airports and at our offices when people arrive exhausted and excited with children in their arms who are still asleep after traveling for 20 hours. They can be part of the welcoming committee at airports. They can also participate in enrolling kids in school and connecting them to health care and setting up houses and helping them learn English and helping them get jobs. I mean, this is what more people in Connecticut could be doing. We get a lot of support already. We could always use more.
Well, and I wonder if seeing the excitement at the airports might change the way we view how we view these stories, right? Chris George, the outgoing executive director of IRIS, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Coming up, we spotlight Sanctuary Kitchen, a nonprofit partnering with chefs from around the world where we live. Have you had one of Chef Homa's delicious Afghan dishes? She'll be joining us, and you can too. Give us a call, 888-720-9677, or leave us a comment on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Catherine Shen. This hour, we learned that community building is central to refugee resettlement. So is food. Familiar flavors carry memories and connect people. Sanctuary City is a New Haven-based nonprofit built around this idea, partnering with immigrant and refugee chefs to a network of sustained holistic support. And joining us now to share their experiences and hopefully some of their favorite Afghan treats is Nasima Gilson, who is the program director for Sanctuary Kitchen in New Haven, and Homa Assadi, who is a chef at Sanctuary Kitchen. Thank you so much, Nasima and Homa, for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having us. We're happy to be here.
And you can also join the conversation, 888-720-9677, or find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. So Nasima, I want to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit more about Sanctuary Kitchen's mission and impact?
Sure. So Sanctuary Kitchen, we're a social enterprise that partners with refugee and immigrant chefs. We have a culinary training program that refugee and immigrant, mostly women, have gone through to help them with employment beyond Sanctuary Kitchen. They create, develop, package, and sell globally inspired dishes that celebrate their own heritage. So our chefs are bringing recipes that they've had in their families, that they've been making pretty much their whole lives. And sometimes cooking isn't their first career, but they bring it to Sanctuary Kitchen, and it's just this really beautiful harmony of culture and food and a common love language.
Well, I love that common love language and how it's all kind of harmonious with each other. And I think Sanctuary Kitchen chefs have also reported all kinds of benefits from their involvement with the organization, from increased financial stability to reduced social isolation. So it's more than just the food, right?
Absolutely. I think that the best way to describe it truly is an adopted family almost. I think, a shared experience coming through really goes a long way and creates a common bond between all of these women that we work with. It's beautiful. And then with the greater New Haven community.
And Homa, I want to bring you into the conversation. Can you tell us a little bit about your story? How long have you been a chef at Sanctuary Kitchen?
Thank you to having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Homa Assadi. I'm from Afghanistan. I came to America 2015, and I work in Sanctuary Kitchen about 5 years. Yeah, I'm a chef from Sanctuary Kitchen. I'm working over there still now.
Well, I want to ask you more about your food in a little bit. But Homa, you also spoke with Hearst, Connecticut in 2021 about your concerns for family members who are in Afghanistan. How are things now?
Yeah, this time is really hard because my brother and their family and my dad and especially my father-in-law and mother-in-law live in Afghanistan this worst time. I'm really concerned about them because this time everyone know this time is really hard time in Afghanistan, but we don't have any choice to bring them here.
And you have been able to sort of find some calmness, I hope, with Sanctuary Kitchen. How has cooking and food been an outlet? Is that a way for you to sort of process what you're going through? How would you describe the power of food and familiar flavors?
Yeah, my all food is my recipe, and my dad and my grandma. But I bring my own recipe in Sanctuary Kitchen and use my recipe over in the Sanctuary Kitchen. I make many different Afghani delicious food, and I know everybody like Afghani dish, and especially the ashak and mantu and kabuli palau. This three thing is really popular in Afghanistan, and the people like it.
Can you talk about those three things? What is it like to share those flavors and familiar dishes in your family?
The ashak and mantu is similar. Like the ashak is just a vegetable, like spinach, cilantro, green onion and stuff inside, and the mantu is like meat inside, and put some stuff, some spice and onion and cilantro and mix it and put it inside and boil it for 20 minutes, and after that you serve it. It's more delicious. Yeah, and kabuli palau is like rice, lamb and carrot and a raisin, and we cook it together, and this food is really popular in Afghanistan. Yeah.
Well, you're making me really hungry on this morning. And I love hearing the word manto because it's actually really similar to a Chinese bread that I'm familiar with, which is called mantou. So it's very similar. Yeah, but it's less of a dumpling, but more of a bread. But every time I have it or even just see it, I have like warm and fuzzy feelings whenever I have it. And, Nasima, while we're talking about this, I know you're also a big fan of ashak. Do you also see food as a kind of love language?
Absolutely. For myself, I'm the daughter of an Afghan immigrant, so food has always been really important. My dad is the one who did a lot of cooking in our house growing up, and it's kind of been fun to see how his traditional Afghan dishes have kind of morphed into this like a little bit American and kind of just whatever's available. But, one of my earliest food memories is my aunt coming to visit and making ashak, and just our entire dining room table just filled with them as she was stuffing them and, getting everything ready. And I could just still smell the filling and just the joy of like watching her fold all of the dumplings and getting to eat them. I mean, I think I was like 5 or 6 at that point too, and it still sticks with me now over 30 years later. So for me, working at Sanctuary Kitchen, it's a little bit of home. It's a little bit of connecting kind of with my heritage that I didn't get to experience as a whole growing up. So it's been really wonderful.
Well, I was going to say what you just described is so beautiful. I wish I can say the same, that I know how to make my own mento, but I just buy it. So
I know I've been trying to learn how to make more Afghan recipes, and it's definitely been great working at Sanctuary Kitchen and kind of observing how Chef Homa and our other Afghan chefs kind of have developed some recipes. So
wait, you know great. What? When I figure it out, I'll come visit you guys and do that.
Please do, anytime.
We also spoke with Hamid Hamed, who is an IRIS client and fellow curator at the Wadsworth, who recently came to Connecticut from Afghanistan. And he also talks about the importance of organizations like yours. So let's take a quick listen here.
Having diversity in food, in cuisines, this is something that bring lots of joys. And like, for instance, I'm from Afghanistan, and when I want to trying to find something, my own food, I'm always try to first search, especially in some ceremonies, like there's my wedding ceremony, there's my birthday party of my son, and there's some special occasions. On that moment, we really miss our own country. We try to find something, some connections, although it is not easy, but we try to find those kind of connections to mix it, to put it together and have the feeling of our homeland. So like food is very, very important, especially in Asian countries. They are very hospitable and they have variety of foods. And for Sanctuary Kitchen is supporting this kind of things. It's very important.
Nasima, what's your response to Hamid?
It really pulls at my heartstrings because it's so true. I am a first-time mom. I just had a baby 2.5 months ago, and at my baby shower, I made sure that I got food from Sanctuary Kitchen because I wanted to have Afghan food represented at the baby shower, and to mix with. My husband is half Italian, so we had a nice spread of Italian food, but also we had Afghan food. And a little bit of everything else, because I can't just, ignore the rest of the Sanctuary Kitchen food. But food is such a great uniter. It just brings people together. I think in every culture, food is the welcoming that you put food out when you have people over. You have, at parties, food is important, weddings, birthdays, all of those things. So I think what he said is just so spot on.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. My heart was also pulled by his description of just connection. And because as he's talking, I'm picturing my own family gathering around with too much food, if that's even possible.
Always.
Homa, I would love to get your thoughts about what Hamid had to say, too, about food being really important to community.
Yeah, our food, you talking about Sanctuary Kitchen?
Yeah, or just, you and your family as well.
Yeah, I saw because every day I'm really busy in the Sanctuary Kitchen and at work, because a lot of people like Afghani food. They order a lot, and I don't have time to eat my lunch because I'm really busy in the Sanctuary Kitchen. But I really love to. I like to the people like Afghani food, and when I saw a lot of order coming, but I'm so happy and I'm proud of myself because my food is really popular to the people like it.
That is definitely something to be proud of, for sure. Nasima, would love to also ask you about one of your favorite dishes. Homa described it a little bit earlier, but can you tell us about ashak, which are Afghan dumplings?
Yes, they are delicious. So I think everybody should order from Sanctuary Kitchen and pick some up.
That's all we need to know.
But they're it's a really simple dish, but with complex flavors. It's they're very warm and homey, and I think it's a great comfort meal. Just, you don't have to have a lot of them, but just a few are something that'll, give you energy for the rest of the day for sure. I know that it's something that I love to have on hand and just have a few bites of as we go, or just a few dumplings. But, every culture has their own dumpling, but I think that this is really a special one for sure.
I'm not gonna lie, pocket dumplings sounds a little bit more enticing than pocket granola. That's
Absolutely. I agree.
And Homa, baking is actually a new passion you discovered since you made a new home here in Connecticut. Can you tell us about that?
Baking, yeah, I made like a naan. I make naan, and I make cake kadu, and I make vanilla cake, and I make like 3 different naan, but only I use just one kind of naan in the Sanctuary Kitchen, because the people didn't know about the different naan, but the people like the naan, but they order a lot of naan every week. I make a lot of naan, and the people like it, and I'm happy too. I'm working there because I want to share my food with the people. Just this is my my dream.
Your dream is to share your food with the people, and I think you are doing that very successfully. And Nasima, we only have a couple minutes here left, but can you tell our listeners about volunteer opportunities at Sanctuary Kitchen?
Yes, we love volunteers at Sanctuary Kitchen. We run with volunteers. So we have opportunities like working in the kitchen and helping prep food with the chefs. We have things as simple as grocery shopping or helping out at the farmers markets. The CDC farmers markets are where you can find our food most regularly. And so, volunteering at the market would be great. We have a ton of different options for volunteerism. And it's any amount of time that anyone can give, whether it's an hour during the week or if they want to be with us every day. I guarantee if you come one time, you'll want to come back many more times because it's wonderful to be in there. And frankly, it smells good and you eat well.
That sounds like the perfect plan to me. You've been listening to Homa Assadi, who's a chef at Sanctuary Kitchen. Thank you so much, Homa, for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
And you've also been listening to Nasima Gilson, who is the program director for Sanctuary Kitchen in New Haven. Thank you as well. And I owe you a recipe for manto.
Yes, please. Thank you. And come by the kitchen anytime.
Absolutely. I'm Catherine Shen. Today's show is produced by Katie Pellico. Our technical producer is Kat Pastor. Download Where We Live anytime on your favorite podcast app. And thank you so much for listening.